Hello, Pun Against It learners. It's Mr. Muscarelli. We are back this time to talk about the end of the year and specifically your end of year student led tours. All right, so let's get into this a little bit. What are you going to have to do before the end of the year? So here's a quick checklist. You already know that you have to upload one acceptable entry per course. You already know that you're going to have to complete and upload your resume. You already know that you should also be completing your use science and analyzing it. And really what we're going to talk about for the most part is completing and presenting this end of year tour. What is this tour that we speak of? Well, it's a presentation of your answers to a series of prompts or questions. You're going to answer them in a couple cases just verbally, but in most cases both verbally and in a written form. You're going to share some evidence, and you're going to have all of this posted on your P3 on the Richer Picture system in the tours section right here. So what happens during the tour itself? You're going to talk and we're going to listen. You're going to meet in person with, and again, I will emphasize in person with two or more evaluators. Kind of like in this photo, you're going to sit around a table in a classroom, the library, some shared space maybe, and you're going to basically do most of the talking and present your tour. They'll ask some questions, you'll answer them. Parents and guardians are also invited, and we frequently have observers or guests who are also going to be around. How do you create this tour? Well, let's going to follow these 3 steps. First step is about putting in the content. Second is writing the responses out to these prompts. And the last one is actually finishing the tour itself. So in the content section, you're going to upload one acceptable entry per class. Please remember, we talked about this many times before. We started rolling this out last fall, that you have to put in one accessible entry per class this year, whether it's semester or full year. Also, that includes VHS classes and Edgenuity classes. The only ones that are exempt are your Learning Lab classes. If you click on the latest news button, and you'll get this document here, and right off the bat, it will talk about end of year requirements. Now, the second phase is the responses section. So you're going to use the prompts and an organizer to create draft responses to all the prompts. What are the prompts themselves? This is a very quick overview document, but what you'll see here is most of the grades, both 9, 10, 11, are all going to introduce yourself. You're going to talk about being on track. You're going to talk about your graduation competency badges and transferable skills and how you're doing work both in school and possibly out of school to meet those. You're going to set some long-term goals like career and some shorter-term goals in terms of Pun Against It and how you're going to kind of match up what you're doing here with your post-secondary goals and getting to your career someday. Whoops. You're also going to present your resume and answer a resume prompt or 2. And juniors are going to talk about the Senior Passion Project and a proposal for it, as well as their senior summer preparations. And finally, some of you are going to be writing a letter to your future self. So where are the prompts? If you go to the latest news page by clicking on that I button on the homepage of the P3 system, or if you go to Canvas home-based courses, whatever your course is, go to the second or third module, which is P3 resources at the bottom. It says end of year tour docs for students. So clicking there or clicking on that document where it says click here for all key documents, it will take you to the prompts themselves. Let's look at the prompts. So you'll be taken to a folder. Before I get to the prompts quickly, there's a frequently asked question and help document that you can take a look at if you need help or have frequently asked questions. There's also a tour checklist. This is in a separate video I'm going to have you look at today, but I strongly suggest that you use this checklist to build your tour. Okay, so now we go to the actual prompts themselves. You're only going to choose your grade for obvious reasons. And within it, you have the prompts and the tour organizers. So let's talk about those. The tour prompts are based on 6 different sections. Each section is kind of clickable, has a bookmark. You can go to that individual section if you want to. There's some reminders at the top. But as you go through them, it can be a lot, admittedly. But what we've done is we've tried to build in lots of helpful tools along the way. So if it's in bold, then it's probably something you need to pay real attention to, or it's an action. You see things like explain, select. These are the actions that you need to do, describe, etc. So read each prompt separately, Use the resources, like in this case, a list of transferable skills. Use other resources like videos. This little icon means that there's a video attached. And you'll see that in some of these prompts, we have multiple videos attached to things. So use the resources as you go through. Now, the organizer should make life a little bit easier for you. We do not have the actual tours turned on yet in the Richer Picture system, and in part because we're building them, and in part because we want you to actually draft your responses here on this organizer. So please make a copy of it, stick your name on the top somewhere, make sure it's yours right there, and you're going to type in your responses, spell check them, etc. This is where most of your time should be spent, is responding to these prompts in these boxes. Later, I'll get to that, you're going to put them on the tour itself. Okay, so these documents are going to be your friends. All right, so those are the prompts. What are the transferable skills, or TSs? Just a reminder, these 4 big badges are graduation competency badges. You must earn these to graduate. If you look at the system, it's starting to count them now. And so don't sweat how far along you are necessarily, but you will see that one of the prompts asks you about these badges and progress you're making. Underneath the badges, we have the transferable skills. So in this case here, there are 4 under learner. And then these transferable skills, we use shorthand like think 1, think 2, think 3, for example, or thinker 1, 2, 3. That's the shorthand that we use, and that you can use those phrases as well as you answer your prompt questions. So now you've, in theory, written your answers to your responses, or your responses to the prompts on that separate document. Now the third phase is the final tour phase. That's where you're going to upload the responses to the actual system. Make sure your artifacts are uploaded, and eventually you're going to give your tour. So let's tour the tour itself. If I go here as a student, now this is a demo student, so it's going to look a little different, but you're going to go to tours, and you should see a tour for your grade. Again, these are not live as of April 29th, but they will be live probably in the first week or so of May. And once you see it, and it's going to say 21, 22 for this year. Don't do last year's tour, do this year's tour. Once you see it, then you're going to get into it. Now, one quick thing, if you click here, you're going to go in view mode. If you click on the pencil, you're going to go into edit mode. Let me just show you what view mode looks like. I'm trying to click here to put things into the boxes, and I can't. Oh no, Mr. Moss, what am I going to do? You're going to click on the pencil icon up here, and now suddenly it's editable. So that's the most common mistake people make. What you notice here is that, I'm not going to go through them all, but the tabs take you to different sections. However, there is a save comment button under each. So don't just take your response, paste it here, and then move to the next tab. It's gonna lose it. So the idea here is you would take your organizer, you would type your response in the box, then you copy it from there. It's all spell checked, it looks good. Paste it in here, clean up any formatting if you need to, click on save comment, then go to the next tab, etc. You don't need to do them in the right order necessarily. Some of them, now this is a demo account, so we have all these strange looking assignments, but some of them you're asked to select one or more entry from your portfolio. So you're going to actually, use a button here and select those entries. And again, I would add or remove, I'd make sure I hit save, etc. You're going to go through each of these, do what it is you're supposed to do, and at the end there is an evaluation. This is a rubric. This is how you will be evaluated or graded, and that's what your evaluators will use to determine your score. Okay, so what's the timeline for doing all of this? Right now, you should be really working on unfinished ILP tasks. So that's the resume, that's UScience, things like that. You should have them all pretty much done. If you haven't, please work on them. You should be creating class entries. We're getting closer to the end of the year here, and so you should have entries in for most of your classes, maybe not all yet, and that's okay, but you should be getting close, and you should certainly have a plan. You should begin filling in your tour organizer, like I just mentioned, and there's a separate video I'm going to make that's very short talking about these things. In early May, the tours will go live again in the next week or two. At that point, you can start actually interacting with the tour itself. And later in the month of May, you will receive your tour date and time. I'll talk about that in a minute. June 3rd, super important day. P3s themselves will lock and basically become only viewable at 2:15 in the afternoon. So at that point, you can no longer enter any class entries. You can't make any changes to your tour, etc. You are locked out of the system as of June 3rd at 2:15. So you need to be done by then. This gives the teachers time to grade and prepare for the tours. The tour presentations are June 13th through 17th. So let's talk about that calendar. June 13th is a Monday. It is the Monday after graduation, which is June 10th. On that Monday, we begin an exam and P3 tour schedule. So you're going to come in and talk to your individual teachers about if they are having exams or projects or what may happen on that day. But basically, you have slightly extended class time, maybe an hour and 40 minutes or so, and you'll be in W1, and then you'll go to W2, and then everybody at 11:15 can go to lunch. Now, I will say, only those people who have a P3 tour assigned to them are going to stay on that day. Everyone else can, with a permission slip, leave school or be dismissed at that time. We do not run the buses early. Buses run at 2:15. So if you have a ride home and have a dismissal form filled out by a parent or guardian, then you may go home at 11:15. Otherwise, you go to lunch, and then you go to your assigned tour time. Let's say it's at noon. At noon, you'd show up in the right place at the right time. Otherwise, you hang out in the cafeteria and kind of wait for your tour to start. And when your tour is done, you go back to the cafeteria. And at 2:15, you have dismissal. So I strongly suggest you start thinking about getting transportation home if that's possible. And that way you don't need to be at school and necessarily. But that's a kind of deep view on the Monday. Tuesday, repeat with G1 and G2. Wednesday, W3, W4. This could be a period you can use to make up some stuff, get some extra help, etc. Thursday, G3, 4. Friday, and that's it. That would be your last exam block. On Friday, we only have the P3 tours in the morning and nothing else, and then makeups in the afternoon. So simply put, you will be assigned to one of those days. If by chance you miss your tour or have to redo something, or you miss an exam and have to redo something, we do have a makeup block here the afternoon on June 17th, as well as June 21st. If you know you have a conflict like a doctor's appointment that you cannot get out of and was made a long time ago, please have a parent or guardian email me or Mrs. Lloyd and Mrs. Lloyd, since we share a brain, as soon as possible. And we will try to make sure, for instance, if you knew you had a doctor's appointment on June 14th in the afternoon, we just simply would make sure that you weren't scheduled that day. It is a lot of work to custom schedule. We tend to use a computer and a bunch of algorithms to do the scheduling. So the earlier we know, the more likelihood we can fit you into a reasonable time. Otherwise, you're going to end up getting kind of pushed into one of these makeup times, which is fine. But please, please, please let us know ahead of time. Okay. Take a deep breath. We let it out. Okay. Why are we doing this? Because it seems like a lot. And you may be thinking, what am I going to do? How am I going to get all this done? So take those deep breaths. You can come back to the slide as often as you want. Do more breathing. Second, time is on your side. You've got plenty of time to answer all of these prompts. It looks like a lot. Don't be overwhelmed. It actually is not bad if you take it into chunks. It is all organized for you. We're going to help you out. If you use that tour organizer, etc., you're going to be fine. So when are you going to do this? Well, I say downtime. You have 38 days before the tours lock. You have 912 hours or 54,720 minutes approximately until they lock. So you've got plenty of time to do this. How many hours will this take you? I don't know, 3, 6, 10, 12, I have no idea. But if you got 912 hours, you've got time to get this done. Now, some classes, especially the English 9th grade classes, are going to be supporting you in your tour prompt, responses. So talk to your English teachers in 9th grade. They will help you out. 11th and 12th graders don't need as much help, so it's not necessarily built in. But clearly you could talk to teachers if you want advice along the way, etc. Now, personalization period, we're going to lean on a lot. So we have a special schedule on May 9th, focusing on the goal setting prompts. Now, that's actually the trickiest one, and we're starting with it early because you don't necessarily need class entries done in order to do this. So on May 9th, we're going to have you focus really just on the goal setting answer. So in an hour and a half, you could totally answer that. On the 18th, badges and on track to graduate. By that time, you should have your pretty much your entries should be done at that point. If not, you can do your best, but that's going to be on the 18th. On the 23rd, resume and letter to future self should be done. And finally, on June 3rd, one last day, finalize anything on your tour and entries, because remember, it locks that day, June 3rd, on Friday at 2:15. Once that thing is locked, you can no longer make changes to it. Now, little asterisk there. If something significant is going on in life on the outside and you're getting extensions from on work formally through your counselors, etc., talk to your counselors. They can talk to Mrs. Lloyd and I, etc. We take into account that people have things going on in the outside world. But I will say this, we make very few exceptions. So only for people, this is not, we don't have extended oh, you just get 5% off kind of thing. This is different than most of your regular work here upon against it. There are no, you don't have like a second shot built in like on a summative task or anything like that. Once it's locked, period. Note, what if you are a transfer student? If you're a transfer student, then we're going to try to come around to home base and catch up with you. Please email us as well if you have questions about this. You may be prorated depending on when you showed up to upon against. If you just showed up a few weeks or months ago, we may ask you to do a little bit less, but we need to be in touch with you. And please remember, again, they lock at 2:15 on the 3rd. So what's the point of doing this? Well, thinking backwards and reflecting, all wise people do that because that's how we avoid making the same mistakes in the future. That's when we think about our strengths and our weaknesses and stuff like that. And then we use that to think ahead and we create goals and plans to make those goals. Relevance, we want you to try to tie your school activities to your interests. When we sit with 12 different students, we want to have 12 different feeling tours because you're talking about yourself and your interests along the way. We want you to do presentation practice. Our seniors are presenting their senior passion projects. They tend to be really good at and being very comfortable because they have presented all of these end of year tours. So we want you to basically get practice presenting to adults. And our favorite part is that it is the celebration of you. You should celebrate your learning and your accomplishments along the way. You should be proud of what you talk about. So does this count for a grade? Heck yeah, it's 10% of your final exam grade in all of your full year classes. So yes, this is part of your final exam grade in all of your full year classes. So not participating is really not an option. Our advice to you, complete it in chunks. Again, you control your own destiny here. Take it in chunks, you'll be fine. Wait until the first week of June and it's going to be overwhelming. Use a tour prompt organizer along the way. Again, that will kind of force you to write things and spell check things, and then you'll be good to go when it comes to actually popping it in the tour. Use your time wisely. Try not to procrastinate. We all do, but if you take it in some chunks, you'll feel much better. And talk to your W4 advisor and talk to your teachers along the way. They'll be able to answer a lot of the questions. Obviously, you can reach out to us as well. And watch out for email reminders from us. We're going to send you your tour date soon. We're going to let you know when the tours are live, things like that. And we'll send some hints along the way. So please, please, please check your emails from us. So what do you do today? There's another video. It's a short one coming up. Watch that next video on how to use the checklist to ensure that you're making progress on your entries, resume, use science, and your tour. And otherwise, just make it a sparkling day, people.